So cost is a big element on some of these cars, especially on the E-types. The cars are worth a lot of money, but you need to be able to invest a lot of money into these cars to get that money back. My name's Daz, and welcome back to another video at P&K Thornton Restoration. Today we'll be talking about some of the things that can go wrong or go right on a restoration project, and give you some pointers on what we do when we're here. As you can see on this Series 1, it's quite an in-depth restoration. We started this car with the customer, talking to him about what he was going to achieve with this car and the level of restoration required. On further inspection, we found that floors were pitted with a little bit of rust. Now, this is one of the things that we come across when we're talking about restorations with a customer, is what is achievable with the state of the car, whether it's worth repairing the original floor or putting in a whole new floor. As in this car, it's got a new floor in it now. As before, as we said, it was a little bit of pitting in it. But the way I always look at it is, with a car like this, if you're going to spend all this money and time on restoring a car, why would you skimp on what you were doing? Because further down the road, in a few years' time, you may have to redo the work again. So we look at it as future-proofing the car. If there's any rust still left in it, it's gone by replacing the floor and having a new panel put in. This leads us up into a second point of rust on the cars. Whereas on these cars, the top bulkhead panel wasn't rusty at all. But the problem with these cars back in the 60s, they never had really good rust protection put on the cars. Paint touched where it could get at when the sprayer was painting them. So here we replaced the whole top bulkhead panel just so we could access the internal panels of the bulkhead to make sure that there was no further rust lingering inside the car anywhere, and then replace the panel and weld it all in fully. But before this, we repainted all the inside and fully rust treated all the inside of the panel and put a fresh coat of paint on there, ready for when it went to the painters. This again goes on to some of the other cars we've worked on before, where they've come in that have meant to have been restored by a professional company. And then when we've looked at them, basically all they've done is they've patched up the rusty panels with filler and fiberglass and then painted over the top. The car will look fantastic from the outside, but in a few years' time, all the filler and stuff will start to crack and come out of the car. So you're starting from scratch again with doing a full restoration. This is where the cost seems like a lot of money to start with when you're doing a project, but you're doing it once, you're not having to do it again. With the realms of some of the paint finishes costing in excess of £15,000, why would you want to risk doing this again? Some people have paid a lot of money for their cars, thinking that they've been restored, and then when you've looked into them, there is not actually anything of metal underneath. We had a couple cars in here like this that came in for a small amount of work, but then when we've gone into the job, we've realised that it's a much bigger restoration project needed. But this is part and parcel of an old car. You don't know sometimes what is underneath the paintwork. This is why here at P&K Thornton, we will give an estimate on a job of a good and worst case scenario. So this is how the only way you can tell if a car needs all the metalwork is by stripping it down, as you can see here, into bare metal. With this car, it's a fixed head coupe, Series 1 E-Type. The owner brought it to us for a full restoration, and it's an American car that was imported and was left-hand drive, but has been converted to right-hand drive. Came from a very dry state in America, where it didn't look like it was too bad. But as I said before, there was a little bit of rust ingress in some of the panels, so we decided to do a full body restoration on it with new floors, new rear quarters, and a whole new boot floor and rear panels. Complete the restoration on the back end. Back end of the car has been redone as well, because we found after stripping the paint off, it had a small rear end accident. The car's come together very well. Rob, our other technician who's been working on this car, has done a really good job of fitting all the new panels to it. This car is also going to have the doors repaired and new door skins fitted to it, as there's a slight bit of rust ingress on the bottom of the doors, which has caused the bottom of the doors to become thin and unusable. So we'll repair this and then put new door skins on them. As we were talking before about restorations and pitfalls of the car, some of the things that people don't realise is even the smallest things need to be test fitted on the car when you're restoring it, just to make sure that everything lines up, because there would be nothing worse than trying to fit something to the car after it's been painted and then finding that it doesn't fit. So here at PK Thornton Restorations, we test fit everything. The lights will be made to fit, the bumpers will be fitted, all the glass and all the window frames, everything, even including in this car, the fuel tank's been fitted just to make sure that it fits the car perfectly. So some of the things that can happen, if you can imagine, the E-Type is such a beautiful car from all angles. And just imagine you've done all this work, test fitted, hasn't taken place, and you come to fit the lights in, and you're following this car down a road, and then you realise the bumpers are all to one side, or the lights are not even on the back end, or even worse, the number plate doesn't fit central to the back of the car. These are all things that can be brought to your attention before the car goes to paint. And this problem doesn't happen again. Another thing people do not realise is the timescale sometimes that these jobs take. There's a lot of hours in making sure the car is perfect and ready for paint. It can be up to 300 hours of panel time, let alone any of the other work involved, including the mechanical rebuilds or the trim or the paint. So cost is a big element on some of these cars, especially on the E-Types. The cars are worth a lot of money, but you need to be able to invest a lot of money into these cars to get that money back. This sometimes can be discussed with us to decide what is the best line of action to take with a car. But of course, if you're expecting to have a high-end return on a car, you've got to be prepared to invest this money into the car wisely. And of course, here at PK Thornton Restorations, you can have a bespoke car done tailored to your needs with Resto Mods as one of our options as well. So you can have modern lights, modern air conditioning, modern running gear to tailor the car to exactly how you would like it. Some people get a bit drawn into the fact that it's a sentimental attachment to a vehicle. Either they had a parent or someone they knew who had one of these cars and they want to restore it to honour them or to relive that experience with them. This is another reason why some people can start a project with the wrong reasons and not realise how much this is going to cost in the long run. They get tied into the emotion of it and the romance of it without the actual thought about how much this is going to cost in the end of the build. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and comment please below. Any questions or any information required, just ask.